Hello and good evening, and of course, welcome back. This is 8 p.m. UK time, therefore, it is time to start our webinar. And of course, we have another top expert. And of course, as always, before we go with the presentation, let me just simply remind you that we are gathering here from the very 1st of April, and we will be finishing on the 30th of June, so tomorrow, with all the events, Stronger Together events. All those events have been brought to you throughout those uncertainty. Of course, most of you are already able to continue, but we are still going to support you. And I just want to mention that even though we were finishing with Stronger Together initiative slowly, of course, we will be back. Okay, so stay tuned. We will definitely have more events coming up pretty soon as well. And let me just, of course, remind you that all the events have been brought to you thanks to our ambassadors and partners. You can see them right here. So, as always, I want to thank them for their support and for their participant, as they also had been our experts. Most of them also had been able to join us and present various topics. And well, today, as you know, we do have another interesting topic and, of course, a special guest. And let me start with introducing you to Dr. Elias Tsakos. He is already our webinar veteran. He has already a few webinars with us. I'm really, really happy that you've decided to come back with us and, of course, provide another topic. So how are you feeling, Dr. Tsakos, today?
Absolutely fabulous. It's been a wonderful day. It's been very long, but very productive. We've had lots of very good news from our patients, and I'm really happy to be able to share you some good news about sperm egg donation and, of course, the legislation and costs and availability in Greece.
That's excellent. Thank you so much for that. That's really good to hear in such case. And of course, I just want to mention that Dr. Tsakos is a medical director at Embryo Clinic, which is located in Thessaloniki in Greece. And I am very happy to have you back with us. And of course, as always, we will start with Dr. Tsakos' presentation on our topic. And after that, it will be time for your questions. So as always, all you need to do is just type those questions in the chat section. And I'm sure you will have plenty of questions, so don't miss this chance to ask any questions you have in mind. You can do it during the presentation or afterwards. And of course, Dr. Tsakos will answer them for you one by one. And I guess it is time to start with the presentation, right, Dr. Tsakos? Ready?
Sure, absolutely, yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for listening in. And in the next 20 minutes, I shall try and give you an overview of the egg, embryo, and sperm donation situation in Greece, with regards, in particular, with regards to legislation, costs, and availability. If I can move on with my presentation now. Right, a few things about myself. I mean, I've been around for about 30 years. Time flies, and it's wonderful to be able to share my experience of the last 30 years with patients all over the world. I've been fortunate and privileged enough to work with some amazing people. Firstly, in the UK, I've spent about 10 years during my training in the UK, and then another 20 years in Greece, treating international patients from all over the world. I have also been privileged to be admitted as a fellow to the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists in London. And of course, I have been a member of the British Fertility and the European Society of Reproductive Medicine, as well as the American Society. So I will try to give you an overview of the principles of egg donation in Greece, hoping to be able to give some information to patients either willing to come to Greece or thinking about the various options that they may have with regards to egg, sperm, or embryo donation. If I can move forward.
Yes.
Right.
Perfect.
This is, I'm trying to take control of my slides, but I may need to ask help, Caroline, for that.
No problem, of course. Just let me know, of course.
Sure. I mean, this is a very standard impression of what was thought to be a normal couple, young heterosexual couple with a young, newborn child. This is not the case anymore. I mean, this is our standard couple, which is not what we've been dealing with in the last few years, simply because, as we all know, now our couples more often look a little bit like this. So we have older couples, either because situations change or because people postpone parenthood in order to give priorities to their career. So this is a typical couple that would probably need egg donation or even sperm donation sometimes. If we move on, which is single mothers, over the last 10 years, most of us working in fertility, we have seen more and more single mothers coming forward in order to achieve the parenthood dream by themselves. They're very strong women who are determined, dedicated, and usually they resort to egg and sperm donation, especially if they're of the older age group. So this is becoming a norm. And in Greece, there's legislation supporting single women in order to achieve their dream to parenthood. Moving forward, Greece has become an established top-class fertility destination. In my opinion, this has been the case for the last maybe 5 or 7 years. It started becoming an emerging destination probably in 2010, and that was simply because a crisis struck Greece, made clinics to be able to look for international patients in order to attract them into this country for fertility treatment. And secondly, because of the legislation, which is quite liberal and quite patient-centered, and I will explore a little bit more further down the line. So in general, I'm talking about Greece in general, not about embryo clinic. In general, I've been fortunate to present the rest of the clinics in Greece. I mean, the level is very high. Scientifically and technologically, clinics are advanced. There's regulation and quality assurance. The legal framework is very liberal. However, we are still trying to make it even more liberal. We're trying to include some other categories of patients and some other age groups. And hopefully, we should have some more good news in the future for patients waiting to hear about the modernization of the legal framework. With regards to safety and success, this is a very high standard in general. Most of the medical directors of the probably about 35 IVF clinics in Greece are internationally trained, and most of them quite esteemed in the international scientific society. Waiting lists in Greece have been traditionally minimal, and this is simply because there's hard work involved. Most of the clinics work 2 shifts every day, morning and evening, although traditionally, as you probably know, IVF work is usually morning work. So there's no real waiting lists with regards to either local or international fertility patients. Affordability is another big advantage of the Greek clinics, and that's simply because the living standards in Greece are quite affordable, especially for the UK patients. I mean, the ratio of euro to pound has been quite favorable in the last many years. However, despite the drop in the sterling in the last few years, still living standards in Greece ensure that medical practice is quite affordable, and of course I will explore that further down the line. So the reputation is being built up, and this is not only because of safety and success, but also in view of the fact that a lot of Greek doctors um, contribute in scientific advances by producing scientific research. They present in scientific conferences, including our team, and so forth. So there's a lot of scientific basis into the everyday professional work that we are delivering. And of course, Greece has easy access, and easy access is both in terms of proximity and in terms of connection with airlines. Of course, with the exception now of the COVID situation, which has changed everybody's lives to to a certain extent, but we're hoping that this easy access will not change, and UK and international patients will continue to find Greece accessible and approachable. If I want to talk a little bit about legislation in gamete donation in Greece, I think number one principle is that egg and sperm donation is anonymous. Anonymous means that there's no contact and there's no possibility of contact between patients and donors. It's also altruistic. Although there is compensation provided to the donors, there's no real payment as such. And this compensation is related to loss of income and reasonable expenses paid to the donors. With regards to the egg donors, the age limits are 18 to 35. I will explore a little bit more further down my presentation what we're doing in the clinic. We're actually using donors only up to the age of 30 in order to ensure that we have the best possible quality and success. The age of sperm donors in Europe is ranging between 18 and 45 years of age. And of course, gamete donation in Greece is legal and regulated. We have a regulating authority, something similar to all the authorities present in most of in all of the European Union countries. In particular, our authorities are quite strict in terms of licensing and in terms of compliance with top quality standards. I can give you an example that all the IVF units in Greece, including of course our own, we're obliged to hold at least two ISO certifications. One is the standard 9001 ISO, but also the lab quality assurance ISO 15224. So there's very strict regulation in Greece, and also in order for any physician, any consultant gynecologist to be able to perform fertility treatment unsupervised, they would need to have a minimum of 2 years post fellowship and post specialty training in the field of reproductive medicine. Now, with regards to patients, the upper age limit for females is 50. So women older than 50, we're not able to treat at the moment, although we have received a small extension to our discretion to this age limit due to the COVID epidemic. So anyone who's been 50 within 2020, they would be able to continue and finish their treatment even if they're maybe 6 months past the age of 50. Also, there's big discussions now amongst our units and the regulating authority and the Ministry of Health, and we have received verbal reassurance that this age limit should be pushed to probably 53. We're waiting to hear the finalization of this notion in the next few months or so. There's no upper limit for the men. Heterosexual couples are eligible for IVF treatment, whether they're married or unmarried. And of course, single females are also eligible for treatment regulated in Greece. As in the beginning of 2020, there's now a national registry of egg donors ensuring quality, traceability, and of course, keeping with the upper number of siblings per donor at the national level. So we're all putting in data from our donors into this national registry, which in my opinion is an extra quality assurance measure, which can only improve the quality of our services. And of course, there's a maximum of 10 children allowed to be born by any registered egg donor. Now, the egg donors, who are they? I mean, we usually get this question. We're not allowed to advertise for egg donors. I mean, I understand that in many countries, including the UK, clinics or the government may advertise in order to recruit egg donors. We're not allowed to advertise either medical services or recruitment of egg donors. However, people read and people are aware of the possibility of gifting and donating eggs or sperm. So they come forward, they open our doors. Thessaloniki, where we're based, is a large university city. It hosts probably about 80,000 university students. So this is where most of the pools of our donors comes from. Having said that, the fact that donation is anonymous is making it even more attractive for the student who wishes to donate her eggs whilst she's studying. However, they wouldn't like to have any complexities in the future. That's why, in my opinion, anonymous donation makes it even more available. There's no agencies in Greece. Agency or any sort of freelance contribution into medical services is not allowed. And again, because of that, donors effectively they just knock on to the clinic's doors, and then of course the clinic's responsibility is to recruit suitable donors for the patients. With regards to tests and testing, there's medical, microbiology, genetic, and psychological screening. And of course, there's a lot of stages and protocols that we follow before we match the donors with the potential recipient. Right, so at Embryo Clinic, we have some special features that I would like to mention here. We have very strict criteria in selecting our egg donors and in caring for our egg donors. So we only use egg donors between the age of 19 and 30 because in our scientific opinion, they are the best donors in terms of quality and success, but also in terms of counseling, implication counseling, and the overall collaboration that we would need to have with them in order to provide the best possible service. In our clinic, only 1 in 5 approximately egg donors are selected. The rest are rejected on various grounds like age, testing, compliance, and so forth. So we are very selective in selecting how we select our egg donors. Also in embryo clinic, only fresh eggs are utilized. I mean, I'm not going to go into the detailing of this, but the standard protocol following various audits we have made is that the use of fresh eggs fertilized by partner's sperm or partner's fresh or frozen sperm in the creation of blastocysts is giving us the highest possible quality, success, and experience. So we try not to synchronize donors because this is creating not only lesser success, but also it creates a pretty stressful experience for both the donors and the recipients, but of course for the clinic staff as well. And of course, I can elaborate more into this if we have time. Another unique feature we have at Embryo Clinic is that we're daily assessing, monitoring, and supervising our patients. So this is something that is pretty unique. We have a dedicated team of coordinators, nurses, and midwives, ensuring that our donors are seen daily, that we supervise the injection intake, and of course we perform multiple monitoring scans and blood tests in order to ensure the optimal stimulation and of course safety and success for patients and safety and experience for donors. Now, another feature we have at Embryo Clinic is since we're dealing with international patients from more than 30 countries, the distribution of gametes is such that we ensure that one donor doesn't donate within one city like Newcastle or one country like England more than once. So we try to ensure that there's no chance of creating siblings in one particular geographic area. So we have a limit of creating children within each country from each donor. So we're very careful in how we select that. And this is one of the reasons why we get a lot of UK patients who wish to ensure that there's no chance of a sibling meeting another donor sibling is possible. So in terms of availability, We quote 1 to 6 months waiting list. However, the mean time is probably about 3 months. And of course, this depends on the individual IVF clinics in general. At embryo clinic, we usually we should be able to find a suitable donor within less than 3 months. And of course, patients matching requests is quite important. For example, we don't have availability, or we don't have a big availability of Afro-Caribbean egg donors, for example, or Chinese and so forth. And this is something we try to communicate with our patients in order to ensure that their expectations are met. And of course, seasonal circumstances make a difference also in the availability of donors. I mean, I'm pleased to mention here that during the lockdown, we had a lot of egg donors coming forward and putting themselves into the availability for egg donation, because they realized that there would be quite a big backlog of patients. So we're in the fortunate situation to mention that this is a good season now, straight after the lockdown, for egg donation in Greece, because fortunately we had quite a few altruistic donors coming forward in order to donate. In general, just before the summer season and just before the summer holiday and Easter holiday is possibly one of the best months to recruit donors, because students, before they go on holiday, usually they may come forward for donation. At embryo clinic, usually for regular requests, we only have 1 to 3 months waiting list, which I think is pretty good. If we want to move on in terms of costs, in general, costs of egg donation in Greece range between 5 and 7,500 pounds. At embryo clinic, we have a particular program on top of the standard full egg donation. We also offer mini packages. So mini egg donation is defined as an egg donation program in which 5 fresh eggs are guaranteed, and this is making egg donation quite affordable for patients even with small budget, because it starts from 3.6 thousand, 3.65 thousand pounds. And also this may be suitable for females approaching the upper age limit. So a female age maybe 49, 49 and a half, who would only have, or who would only wish to have one chance, that might be a quite attractive package. And also it may be an attractive option for patients who only wish to have one child and they don't wish to have a sibling, as opposed to standard patients, say in the early or mid 40s with no children, who would opt for the full egg donation package. I mean, we try to be as personalized as possible. And of course, egg donation is another IVF treatment that, in our opinion, should be available to a big number of potential patients. If we move on, sperm donation in Greece is also anonymous and altruistic. Most of IVF clinics, including our own, we get hold of sperm from major sperm banks within the European Union. Anonymous sperm donors, individualized matching. There's no waiting list. The availability is pretty big, and the cost roughly is about £500. At embryo clinic, we're very fortunate to be working with world-class andrologist specialists. So all the procedures that are associated with male infertility are possible, either in terms of diagnostic tests or in terms of treatments and sperm retrieval and sperm handling technologies. So we're very fortunate that the full range of andrology services is available for patients, either couples or men. So this is helping a great deal. Of course, if patients need to resort to sperm donation, again, we collaborate with the largest European sperm banks. Right. So embryo donation, lastly, is legal and regulated. Also, it's also anonymous. The availability again is between 1 to 6 months, and that is depending on the matching requests. And the costs are starting from £3,000 depending on whether patients are willing to have one, two embryos. Of course, if they wish to have more, if they wish to have more of the same batch and so forth, then we need to individualize and discuss accordingly. Now, there's big talks in Greece at the moment, and this may be a very good idea for other countries like the UK, where all the IVF units were talking between ourselves in order to create a public embryo bank or egg bank with surplus embryos in order for couples, local couples initially, but I can't see why this cannot open to international couples, to be able to access um, eggs or embryos that have not been utilized and are not intended to be utilized. Apparently in Greece there's about 17,000 spare embryos at the moment, and if this moves forward, that would create indeed a very, very, very um, valuable pool of embryos for patients. So in general, gamete donation in Greece has quite a few advantages overall. So Greece is an EU country with easy access, except the COVID situation, but I'm sure this will not last forever. It seems that it's lasting forever, but it's going to go away, hopefully, very soon. Greece is an established global tourism destination. It's an emerging and, in my opinion, it's an established global fertility tourism destination. Egg donation and gamete donation is legal and regulated, safe, successful, affordable. There's no waiting list, and there's a lot of experience now that has been built over the last 7 to 10 years, especially amongst the units in Greece who are equipped and staffed appropriately for international IVF care, and that includes experienced medical administration and legal teams. And on top of everything, I would like to add that Greece is a COVID-safe country at the moment. We're hoping to retain this title. We work very hard, as I'm sure all countries work very hard. We were quite proactive, and because of that, we've only had about 3,000 cases of COVID disease and less than 300 deaths. This is hoped to be maintained in the future. I can tell you a few things about the COVID measures we take in our units. Apart from all the standard measures, questionnaires and personal protection equipment and so forth, we perform PCR testing on all our patients. Of course, all our donors have PCR testing twice, once just before they start their stimulation and once just before they donate, just before the pickup, and the same applies for our patients. And on top of that, at Embryo Clinic, we PCR test our male patients. We've ensured that we have availability of testing kits at a reasonable cost, at the bottom cost, in my opinion, and this is ensuring highest levels of safety. On top of that, Embryo Clinic is proudly presenting to be probably amongst the very first clinics in Europe, as far as I know, to acquire an ISO certification on COVID safety. So stay tuned. We're hoping to be able to present that in the next week or so. Finally, I don't want to take more of your time. It's getting a bit late in the UK. It's about 8:30 and 10:30 in Greece, even later. We've resumed our services nearly 2 months ago now, so we feel very confident and quite experienced now. We have 2 months experience into working in a COVID environment. Thankfully, we've had no incidents. Of course, we're monitoring all the protocols daily, and we're ensuring that all the protocols are retaining the safety of our patients and our staff alike. So I think most of you, you have to decide who do you trust your family dream with. There's a lot of information available. I would be personally available to each one of you separately if you wish to have a very short video call. complimentary from our team. So please get in touch if you wish to have some one-to-one consultation with regards to your particular situation. Embryo Clinic in general, just a few words. Embryo Clinic is a boutique IVF clinic. We try to keep a holistic focus on the individual patient. We value that a great deal. We have got a very strong presence and links in the UK that basically started in the 90s. During my training, that started in the southwest in Bristol and then moved into London briefly and then to the southeast in the Norwich area before I moved up north. Now we have strong links all over the UK with our main base being in Manchester. We do have dedicated patient coordinators. So each one of our patients, each one of our couples, they are allocated to a named personal coordinator who's going to be working very hard to ensure good communication and good contact. We offer online consultations, assessments, and coaching. During the COVID time, I'm proudly presenting that we probably presented about 20 seminars and webinars, and we offered more than 100 one-to-one free consultations, free initial consultations to patients from all over the world. And of course, apart from having consultations for embryo clinic, my team, based both in Greece and in the UK, we do offer independent assessment and coaching to patients wishing to be treated locally. It would be our honor and pleasure to be able to support you during that journey also. And one of our standard features is that we have the highest ratio of um, uh, staff to patient ratio with 5 consultant gynecologists and another 20 members of scientists, staff, and coordinators. On top of that, our team very proudly presents very high level, top-notch surgical expertise. I have to confess that this is owed to some wonderful teachers that personally took me by hand, starting in Bristol and then Norwich and Newcastle. I was fortunate enough to be trained by UK's best surgeons, and thankfully, we did manage to keep that going, and we took that forward with introducing very advanced hysteroscopic, laparoscopic, and now robotic surgery for patients. Robotics is something that has become a passion. I would like to talk even more about it at some stage because robotic assisted laparoscopic surgery, in my opinion, is the present, not just the future, which not only treats safely, but also it can provide to our fertility patients with some amazing options that sometimes make IVF unnecessary, but even if you resort to IVF, this can be much more successful. So how do you start? You start with a free video call if you wish. Alpha Zeta is a new concept. I will not talk too much about it, but I was inspired by some amazing patients who kept nudging me to add some extra services. So Alpha Zeta is the holistic approach, which includes the care for mind and soul, not just the body, and that includes a dedicated team of acupuncturists, fertility massage specialists, and of course nutritionists and coaches. Thessaloniki is a beautiful city. You're all invited to come and visit the city. You could have a wonderful city break and at the same time do a little bit of fertility workup. I promise you that you will not feel unwelcomed. People are very international and very familiar with UK and international visitors, especially during the COVID times now. This is Embryo Clinic, a wonderful building, but most importantly, a wonderful team. This is only part of my team. Thank you so much for listening in, and I'm free and happy to answer any possible questions. Thank you for listening.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Tsakis, for your presentation and, of course, explaining all the steps as well. And, well, there are lots of questions actually ready, so let's get to them right away. And the first question that we have is right here. So, does your clinic also help support intended parents find a surrogate? If so, how long does the process take on average?
Sure. I mean, surrogacy is a huge chapter. I mean, I would be very happy to talk to Michelle in private. I mean, anytime you can send us an email and we can set up a video call. I mean, international surrogacy in Greece was established only a few years ago, although we have had experience with treating local patients through surrogacy. The law changed only about 5, 6 years ago. Over the last few years, the experience has been built up. So I'm very happy to say that indeed this is a service that is very well established, and there's a lot of experience now, both medical, legal, and of course logistics, and patients from many countries from all over the world, of course, including the UK, Australia, and most of the European countries have been treated successfully. So please, Michelle, get in touch and I would be able to answer any specific questions.
Excellent. Thank you so much, of course, for that question and, of course, for your help with this as well. And, well, next question is in regards to your presentation, what about an all male couple and single males?
Right, okay. At the moment, as far as I know, I mean, definitely at our clinic, and as far as I know, it's most, if not all, clinics, we cannot treat. Although there are some legal cases which have been won, um, the general feeling in Greece is that the society perhaps is not ready to embrace this kind of treatment. And all I can speak on behalf of my clinic is that at the moment we're not treating all male or single males through fertility. I'm sorry.
All right. Of course. Thank you so much for the clarification to this question as well. And so, if you could tell us what is the cost of embryo donation?
Yes, I think I mentioned that. I mentioned that in one of my slides. I can't remember exactly. I think it starts from 3.5 thousand pounds.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that as well. Next question is we are a Sri Lankan couple. Do you have any South Asian donors? What's the matching process like at your clinic?
Sure. Hi, Sri Lankan couple. I've never treated a Sri Lankan couple. I have to be honest here, although I have treated quite a few Asian couples. Now, Thessaloniki is becoming very popular with Asian populations. So we have a lot of people moving into Thessaloniki permanently for Asia. My children have quite a few classmates, Asian classmates, and there's a pretty big Asian community being built up. However, at the moment, we don't seem to have any Asian donors. So I don't know what's going to happen in the future in the next 6 months or a year. So if this is what you're after, an Asian donor, at the moment the availability is very limited. However, please don't get disappointed. Please stay in touch or drop us a line to our info@embryoclinic.eu, and we can individualize our answers.
Excellent. Again, thank you so much for your question and, of course, your explanation to this as well. And next question. So, can we use my husband's sperm and donor egg to create embryo?
Absolutely, and this is standard treatment for through egg donation. So husband sperm and donor egg is the standard egg donation process that we follow.
Okay. Thank you once more for the clarification. And next question is what about screening for genetic mutations? Example BRCA.
Sure. Um, Absolutely can be done. I mean, I don't know what screening you're talking about. Are you talking about screening the donor or the patient? We can definitely do both. May I say that in our department, we have a pretty big breast clinic as well, run by my wife, who's a senior consultant breast surgeon. And we do have specific provisions for counseling and supporting BRCA potential or diagnosed patients. So this is no problem. We can do, I mean, apart from the standard genetic screening on the donor, on the egg donor, which includes thalassemia testing, drepanocytosis testing, Fragile X testing, karyotype testing, cystic fibrosis 99% testing. So this is standard, done to everyone. And these are genetic tests only. Of course, we perform multiple other tests, microbiology, hematology, biochemistry, psychological, and so forth. We can do specific added genetic testing on request.
All right. Again, thank you so much for this. And well, there is a thank you from the patient. Very helpful for that. Thank you. And well, let's have a look at the next question. And given your experience with Rotsekos, is the fresh embryo, frozen embryo transfer better? Does the cryo embryo implantation rate decline with the longer time it stays frozen? Thank you.
Well, hi, Melinda. I was hoping to get a question like that. Thank you so much for asking. I mean, I must say that we've been through phases with regards to what is best for our patients in terms of stimulation. With the help of David Gibbon, who is a senior embryologist and a very good friend of mine based in the UK, we've been looking into our data for many years before we came to this conclusion. I mean, effectively, there's three ways of doing egg donation. One is to use frozen eggs. So you freeze the eggs from the donor, and then when the time is right, you thaw the eggs, fertilize them with partner sperm or donor sperm, or partner's fresh or frozen sperm, and then you do a fresh embryo transfer. Now, the second way is to synchronize the donor with the recipient. So stimulate the donor at the same time. Prepare the recipient's endometrium, and then synchronize the egg collection with the maturation and with the timing of the implantation of the embryo. So you have fresh embryo created by fresh eggs implanted. And the third is to use non-synchronized cycles. So I don't want to make it very complex, but the third option worked best in our hands, and in my experience, in most clinics' hands. Why? Because frozen eggs, they don't seem to be behaving as well as we would have liked them to behave. Sometimes they can be a little bit unpredictable. And also freezing embryos created by frozen, thawed, fresh eggs, again, they don't behave always as predictable as we would have liked them to. Now, trying to synchronize donor and recipient is not a brilliant idea, in my opinion. Firstly, because it doesn't always work. The chance of canceling an egg donor, even a top quality egg donor, still has a chance of maybe 5 to 10% of cancellation, which is pretty big in my opinion. And of course, the chance of canceling a recipient is also 5 to 10%. So if we add those chances, then we're faced with a chance of maybe 15 to 20% of not getting the synchronization right. On top of that, there's logistics issues when we try to synchronize. We have this wonderful couple, so we have their characteristics. We're looking for a donor. We find this perfect match, in our opinion, and this perfect match is available now that the recipient cannot travel or is not available to travel. So matching is not just a matter of, because you have to understand that donors are human beings with lives, with schedules, with programs, with work, with exams, with families sometimes. So if they wish to donate, they may be available this month, but they may not be available next month. So they may definitely not be available at all when the recipient is available, and so forth. But even if they are available, even if they are willing, there's a lot of stress involved trying to synchronize donor for recipient one-to-one. And when we audited our results, we found that although the success was 10% less in the synchronized cycles, the experience was terrible compared to the experience of using uh, unsynchronized cycles. So effectively, that's what we've been using now. So how do we work? So we have the recipient couple or single lady coming in. So we do all the pre-IVF tests and we do all the preparation, all the counseling and so forth. In case of a couple, the man keeps his sperm frozen in our unit and then the couple fly away. So we have the sperm here, and we have the time, and that's why we keep a very short waiting list. Because by the time we have the sperm here, once the suitable donor is identified and once the suitable donor is available and the compliance is sorted and all that, we proceed with creating embryos. And once we have the embryos in place, those embryos, they belong to the couple and the donor is effectively physically out of the equation. So it's much more applicable to proceed then with the frozen embryo replacement. So in our experience, not only does that create the maximum possible chance of success, which is in the region of 55% success rate if we implant one embryo, and 75% success rate if we implant two embryos, which we discourage. But of course, many couples, following careful counseling, they do opt for a double embryo transfer, which we have to offer. It's legal, and although it's not our first choice, it's not something we encourage. Sometimes we do perform that. So the cryo time of embryos, in our experience, has never affected the quality. So I wouldn't worry too much about that because the conditions of keeping the cryopreservation of embryos is very perfect. So we have no worries about that.
And excellent. Thank you so much for that question. And of course, for your thorough answer with all the details as well. And let's have a look at the next question. Does an explained for infertility really exist? Surely there has to be an issue with either the male and female. For IVF treatment with an explained infertility, what additional testing of any, if any, should we be having?
Right. Okay. Wonderful, wonderful question. I mean, I could be talking. I mean, let's set up a webinar on unexplained infertility. Let me. Well, I will try to be very short. Depends on how hard we investigate. I mean, in terms of the pre-IVF investigations, I have very clear views. In my opinion, I think that at the moment we have to balance between doing very little of pre-IVF investigations and doing too much pre-IVF investigations. I think we need to individualize. I think we would need to be a little bit balanced between doing the essential investigations and not going over the top. So, and of course, we need the patients to contribute into the final decision of what is essential investigation in their case and what not. So, yeah, unexplained infertility does exist. However, perhaps it's not as common as we think it is because I don't think we're testing too much. I think one of the problems, and I'm probably the third generation of IVF doctors. Now, you know, people now in training are probably the fifth or the sixth generation of IVF doctors. In my generation, which is fertility doctors trained in the 90s, we have been a little bit more fortunate, I think, in the respect that we were also trained as general gynecologists and also as endoscopists. So we were trained fertility surgeons, not only fertility reproductive endocrinologists, as they call us in the US. So I think the more, for example, hysteroscopies we do, or the more laparoscopies we do, I'm not saying that we should be doing it on everyone, the more we realize that there's less unexplained infertility. The more tubal assessments we do. I mean, these are very clear examples of how little we do. I mean, tubal assessments. I mean, a lot of IVF patients, they've been told that, oh, if you have an IVF, you don't need to check your tubes. But what if I have hydrosalpinx, the patient may say, and then they may listen to a reply saying, oh, well, you probably don't because I would have seen it on scan. So I'm not sure all of this is valid. I mean, for example, tubal assessment is absolutely obligatory in Greece in order for patients to get compensation from the state. And this is not because we're a very rich country and we can offer free tubal assessments to everyone. It's because there is data showing that if someone has hydrosalpinx and they have IVF, the chance of success is limited, is reduced by maybe 50%. And the risk of an ectopic perhaps is increased by 3, 5, or 10 times more. And the same applies with some standard testing like thyroid function. I mean, in Greece, we have subclinical hypothyroids of about 10% of patients. So by performing a test of 20 pounds, which is TSA testing, perhaps we can improve the thyroid function before we embark on IVF. And this may not only impact IVF success, but it may have a huge impact on the pregnancy success and so forth. So I don't want to be very long here, but unexplained infertility does exist, but perhaps to a lesser extent than we think it does.
Excellent. Again, thank you so much. And yes, it seems that we could do another webinar on that. So
Yeah.
still thank you for
Yeah.
providing the
Sure.
details.
If I can add here, sorry to interrupt, Caroline.
Sure.
However, Emma, you're very welcome to send an individual sort of questionnaires, we call it, and I would be able to draft a little bit of testing list in
Yes.
your particular case. And as I said, in my opinion, I think we need to individualize. It's different tests that we would do on a first-time couple compared to a couple who've had 5 miscarriages and so forth. I mean, today I did surgery. I operated surgery on someone who's had probably about 8 miscarriages before somebody suggested an HSG, and the lady had a bicornuate uterus, a huge diaphragm on her uterus, so plus a hydrosalpinx. So I do think we need to individualize, and we need to take into account the fact that sometimes a little bit of extra investigation may save the woman and the couple a lot of hardship in the future, either in terms of failed IVF or in terms of a miscarriage.
And thank you for that, of course. Yes, thank you so much. And of course, there's a thank you from the patient as well. Thank you, Emma, for that
Thank you, Emma.
as well. Okay, and well, let's have a look. We do have plenty of questions coming up, so let's get to the next one. I am 45 and have had 2 failed attempts. IVF and ICSI. I have NK cells and considering egg donation. Do you treat NK cells? Would you recommend having an egg donor? Do you have egg donors from the UK and Scandinavia?
Right. Hi, Toby. Okay. NK cells. Huge discussion. I think there's a big debate as to whether this exists as an entity, and definitely the HFEA has got a red flag on it. So I'm not sure if this was or could be related to your IVF failure or not. However, if you wish to have some more information, I urge you to go onto the HFEA website in order to get some solid scientific evidence on that. Would I recommend egg donation? Answer is possibly yes, because simply at 45, the chance of own egg IVF success is extremely low. And even if there is pregnancy, the chance of a miscarriage, in particular due to chromosomal anomaly related to your age, is very high. So yes, egg donation is a valid option, and perhaps the most valid option for a 45-year-old woman. Now, do we have egg donors from the UK? Answer is no, we don't. and Scandinavia is no again. Uh, Now, of course, we do have Scandinavians and Brits living in Greece. Now, if someone knocks on our door and wishes to donate direct tomorrow, I don't know. But as a whole, this is not very easy to not very likely to happen.
All right. Again, thank you so much for your question, Toby, and of course for your help with this as well. And well, there is another sorry, there is another question, of course. Which clinic are you linked with in Manchester? Do you have many donors with blonde hair and blue eyes?
Yes, in Manchester, we do have a lot of associates, either facilities providing primary testing and investigations, and or fertility physicians and gynecologists. So, depending on the situation, we would be able to support you in either having some tests performed under supervision. I'm also licensed in the UK to practice and I'm fully registered as well. So I'm providing consultations in Manchester either on site or online. So if you have any particular questions, please feel free to send us a private email on info@embryoclinic.eu. Now, we don't have many blonde hair, blue eye donors. However, we do have a few. Um, Interestingly, the north of Greece, if you walk around Thessaloniki, you will see perhaps more blondes and blue-eyed females than you would see in Manchester or Newcastle. My wife is blonde, blue-eyed, by the way, Greek. So we don't have many of them, but we do have some, and this is what applies to the matching criteria. So if somebody is wishing a particular phenotype, a particular type of hair and eyes, of course we make a note of that and we try to match you as closely as possible. However, there's a lot of other characteristics, of course, that we look into. As I mentioned in my talk, number one limiting factors for recruiting of donors is the age limit that we put, which is the maximum of 30 years old. And this is ensuring maximum safety and success, in our opinion. However, we do expect individual requests from our patients, of course, as long as our patients understand that this may make the matching process a little bit longer.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. And actually, there are two questions related to egg donors. So, first one is what matching information do you receive about the egg donor? And the next one is very similar. So, what kind of information do you disclose about egg donors? Only basic phenotype?
Indeed, I mean, we're talking about anonymous egg donation. So, we try to give as relevant to the anonymous egg donation information as possible. So yes, the donor ID contains the standard phenotype and the standard information that may be relevant with 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 the care of pregnancy, which is the age of the egg donor, for example, and of course this height, weight, phenotype, blood group, and of course all the genetic and the screening that we perform. So we try not to get into the detailing of answering questions in the likes of what kind of education and all that, because or what kind of hobbies. I mean, sometimes off the record, the coordinators may mention a few things, but strictly speaking, we try to keep it very, very strictly anonymous and based on standard phenotype and standard genetic age and body size and weight characteristics.
Okay, thank you again for the clarification on that. And actually, there is one more question. Does ethnicity of the female patient having the embryo donation matter? For example, could an Indian woman have an embryo donated from, say, a Greek man and women donor?
The answer is absolutely yes. I mean, for example, we've treated Indian patients. some Greek phenotypes are very similar to the Indian phenotype. Um, of course, this particularly applies to the southern Greeks, but of course, Greeks are Greeks. So you find, yes, if you walk around Thessaloniki, you might find some, uh, people walking around who may resemble the Indian phenotype. So answer is um, yes, we could, and the female patient phenotype has nothing to do with how well they receive. Of course, they state the requests and their wishes, but even if there's no logical, people's logic is very different. I mean, we've had, for example, small-sized females requesting a tall egg donor, and vice versa. We've had a tall recipient. She was nearly 6 foot, who requested a shorter egg donor because she had a hard time at school because she was the tallest girl and all that. So we try to to understand, and we try to work very closely with our recipients in order to identify the best match for them. So uh, the matching process is a very sensitive process. We are very happy to listen and to comply with your wishes, of course, to the extent that this is possible, and of course, medically and ethically acceptable.
All right, thank you so much for that again as well. And next one is a short question. Do you treat hepatitis B positive patients?
Thank you so much. I mean, I must admit, Caroline, today we've had the best audience. I mean, thank you so much for contributing into this webinar. And I've promised myself many times that I owe it to my patients to collect all those questions and write books and books. But believe me, there's endless questions, and it's absolutely impossible to include
Yes.
them. So this is very relevant. In terms of treating, let's say, infected patients, yes, we can treat hepatitis B positive patients. Part of the essential investigation we are legally obliged to check for hepatitis stages: hepatitis B, hepatitis C, HIV, and syphilis and VDRL. So hepatitis B we do treat. We have special protocols in place in order to ensure safety, success, and of course safety of staff, safety of the facility, and so forth. So that's no problem. We treat hepatitis B patients. We treat hepatitis 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 C patients. We do not treat HIV patients. None of the Greek clinics at the moment holds a license to treat HIV patients, unfortunately. There's a lot of discussions to create a public bank, and that was one of our suggestions, that we should not be discriminating against the HIV positive patients, and we should not be rejecting them. However, on the other hand, we have to ensure safety, firstly for them, but of course for the staff and for the non-HIV patients. There's a lot of talks about infectious screening. There's very strict regulation with regards to screening in order to ensure that our patients are guaranteed that there would be no cross-contamination, no cross-infection.
And thank you so much once again for this as well, of course. And well, there are like four questions left, so we will be slowly finishing. And well, I just want you to see. Thanks a million from our patients in regards to
Thank you,
the
Say.
answer you have provided just now. And next question is: I am a single woman. Can I freeze my eggs at your clinic to use later on?
Uh, Absolutely is the answer, as long as you're uh, at a reasonable age. And what is a reasonable age? The younger the better, as we say. On the other hand, I mean, even a woman in her early 40s, if the conditions are optimal, it is possible to freeze her eggs, but of course, there's a lot of counseling involved. So if you wish to explore that option, please get in touch, and we should be able to do an assessment online, firstly, and then do some testing on site wherever you're based. And depending on the outcome, of course, of the assessment, then we can advise you whether it's feasible, whether it's suggested, what kind of success we would be expecting. And of course, you need to understand that we can only treat you up until the age of 50 and a few months at the moment.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much again for the clarification. And next question is from Michelle so she already had a question for you, and that was her answer. I forgot to show you. That is great to hear and look forward to having a consultation. Thank you, Michelle, for that. And there's another question. Will you transfer multiple embryos to a surrogate or single blastocyst only?
By law, we can only transfer one or two. We heavily advise to transfer one blastocyst, and I would say, eventually we invariably transfer one blastocyst, definitely the first and second time. The cumulative success rate with transferring one top blastocyst, um, say from an egg donor to a surrogate, is extremely high. It is very rare to either have the request, which we cannot alter, to transfer two. But again, there's multiple discussions involved in this subject. But yeah, the general line and the general protocol is to transfer one top quality blastocyst.
All right, thank you so much. Just added how high?
How high? I mean, there's about 55% success rate with transferring one top quality donor egg embryo each time. So the cumulative, if we transfer one is 55%. The cumulative success, if we transfer twice, a single blastocyst is very near 75%, which is pretty high.
And thank you for this, of course, as well. And actually, there's another question, okay? Which charities, agencies are you linked to in the UK that could also support us, including surrogacy process that are currently accepting intended parents?
Sure, yes. We have taken the patient pledge with Fertility Network UK. So we are, we're supporting heavily that charity. I think they're doing great work, and we're hoping to have individual sessions with them on various subjects like surrogacy or egg donation or online consultations, which in my opinion is probably going to be the next big thing after the COVID situation. And of course, there's another big charity in Australia. It's called Growing Families, if Michelle wants to have a look at that. If you are interested in surrogacy, perhaps you can get some independent advice from them. They're helping patients from all over the world. The UK agency is Fertility Network UK, the
All right.
UK-based agency, and the Australian-based aid. I would say its agency is it's a non-governmental organization, charity. I would say the Australian charity is called Growing Families. We also support a wonderful Serbian charity, which is the largest in Serbia, and of course. If anyone of you has any other suggestions, we're very open because we take very huge pride in supporting charities and initiatives that like my IVF answers and so forth in order to support our fertility patients all over the world.
And excellent. Thank you so much, of course, for that as well. And actually, if you can have a look, are you able to provide us with costs for surrogacy using donor eggs?
Well, it's quite complex. It has to do with a lot of factors, but I would be very happy if they want to drop a line to info@embryoclinic.eu. I would be very happy to answer them individually. Since there is a little bit of interest on surrogacy, may I say that Greece is the only country within the European Union at the moment providing surrogacy services to international patients. Only in Greece, within European Union, there are other countries in Europe, in the geographic part of Europe, but not within the European Union, that can offer that. So Greece is the only option within the European Union. We have treated patients from a lot of European countries. Most of our patients, interestingly, come from Spain, referred to us by wonderful colleagues from Spanish clinics, and we've had successfully treated many Spanish patients, but of course also UK patients and patients from Germany, Switzerland, all over Europe, France, um, Serbia, and so forth, and quite a few Australian patients. Now, if I can say a little bit more about surrogacy, is that if you're looking into that, I think people should focus not just on the entry process, but also on the exit process. You have probably heard in the news that, especially during the COVID situation, there's been a lot of children, newborns, born through surrogacy in some non-European Union countries, stranded without being able to travel and so forth. So it's quite a complex process. In my opinion, I think patients need a team to back them up and support them in a journey that can be as long as 2 years. However, patients are usually so determined that they sometimes they support us instead of us supporting them, and we have worked closely with some amazing patients. Now, the legal side is very important also. I can only say this, that you need to have a lawyer within the UK in order to ensure and to oversee the whole process. But then, yes, as a clinic, we do have our in-house legal department, but also we suggest an external lawyer in order to ensure maximum levels of compliance and, of course, safety.
And excellent. Thank you so much for that again as well. And of course, there's a thank you from our patient. And it looks like
Excellent.
now it will be our last question for today. So let's have a look at it. If, as a single woman, if I needed donor egg, would I then automatically go to embryo donation versus egg and sperm? Do you ever consider creating an embryo from a patient and then looking at it and seeing which is best if we are possibly on the edge of age of my eggs being in question?
Uh, yeah, I mean, absolutely is the answer. Absolutely. It depends. Again, I mean, if if we have, for example, somebody in their early 40s who have never tried IVF before, then of course own egg IVF would be the first option, the first choice with donor sperm. If someone is in their mid 40s, then we would have to counsel them that the chances of a successful outcome, and successful outcome for us is the birth of a healthy child, is not a positive pregnancy test or a pregnancy that miscarries. Then the egg donation is probably the only valid option forward. However, we've had women who keep trying with their own eggs even at the age of 46 or 47. As we probably all know, the oldest woman in the world who delivered through IVF with her own eggs a healthy child is 46. However, you know, before she made it, perhaps the oldest was a 45-year-old, and perhaps she was counseled that it never happened before, and it did. So I'm pretty sure that soon someone will publish that a 47-year-old made it with her own eggs, and then maybe a 48-year-old will make it with her own eggs and so forth. So in my opinion, there's no right or wrong in general. In my opinion, I think there's a lot of discussions involved, there's a lot of counseling that has to be offered, and there's a lot of understanding that has to be made, uh, firstly from the patient point of view of what the real chances are, and of course from our point of view to understand the needs of our individual patients, and we would like your guidance onto that. We would be happy to support anything that is scientifically based and ethical. We would be very happy to work with you, even if you know you're fighting against the chances. On the other hand, I think we have to be very, very skeptical in offering treatments that are equivocal or unproven, and we would need to be very careful in how we handle the hope of our patients and the trust of our patients. So it is not easy to make the right decision. However, we're very happy to work with individual patients in order to identify what's best for them.
Brilliant. Thank you so much once again for that. And just want you to see. Brilliant. Thank you. See you soon. So thank you so much. That was our last question. There are some very nice comments. I will show you those in a minute. But before that, if you could clarify, the email address is just to make sure. Sorry, I will show it. info@embryoclinic.eu. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. So if anyone would like to get in touch with Dr. Tsakos, you can use this email, and I'm sure the team and Dr. Tsakos will be happy to assist you with some more of the questions and possible consultation, etc. And I just want you to see, Dr. Tsakos, thank you so much for your time and invaluable knowledge. And there are more thank yous right here. Brilliant webinar, stunning webinar. So more of those, of course, are here. And I just want you to see this as well. You have made so many happy families in the UK. You and your exciting and caring team have transformed the lives of so many families. Thank you. Thank you also for those kind words indeed.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time and efforts. And may I say that I'm available. This is very fulfilling for me. After so many years, I still have so much to learn from you, and I learn every time and every day. Thank you for your wonderful questions. Thank you for your support, and thank you for guiding us as scientists, as physicians, as human beings into trying to identify what's the best way to treat our wonderful patients who deserve only the best experience and only the best outcome.
Excellent. Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure to have you with us tonight. So thank you for your expertise and, of course, for helping out all to our patients, and to all of you for joining us today, for all of the questions. And definitely we are keeping fingers crossed for all of you, so you have good news. Everyone will get the good news. And I just want you to mention that this has been recorded, so you will have a chance to watch this again. And of course, you will be able to find it on our myivfanswers.com website. It will be uploaded tomorrow on our YouTube channel, so I can only encourage you to simply just subscribe, so that you will be up to date with all the events as well. And we will actually be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. UK time and at 8 p.m. So I do hope you will be able to join us tomorrow. Those are our two final events when it comes to Stronger Together. So don't miss the chance to ask some more questions and find out some more on some other topics. Thank you so much, Dr. Sakos. Have a wonderful and relaxing late evening already. And of course, thank you for joining our initiative. It's been a pleasure, and I'm pretty sure we will have more of those events coming up, right?
I hope so. Thank you so much for hosting. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good night, everyone. Bye.
Good night.